All right, man, peace. So, embattled Cleveland Cavaliers power forward Kevin Love will be out for 6 to 8 weeks due to a broken left hand. Those of us who follow the NBA know that Kevin Love has been in the crosshairs of his teammates, as well as the majority of the people of Cleveland, because he's been the fall guy and the one to take most of the blame for the team's struggles, even though it's very obvious that he has very little to do with their problems. Either way, the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to have to prove now that he's the reason for their problems, because now with him not there, either they're going to make their season or break their season. Anyway, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
It looks like the Cavaliers will continue to adjust their lineup with all-star power forward Kevin Love out 6 to 8 weeks with a broken hand. The injury happened last night. In the first quarter, the Cavs 125-114 loss to the Pistons. The team said Love received x-rays at the arena that revealed a non-displaced fracture in the fifth metacarpal. The Cavs will update his status after additional consultations today. Despite the fact that Love's 17.9 points per game are the most for any player averaging less than 30 minutes played this season, the Cavs have been outscored with Love on the floor.
Yeah, but the Cavs have been outscored with everybody on the floor, basically. I mean, damn near, at least for the last 2 weeks or so. They're playing the worst defense in the NBA, basically. You could pretty much put up the same stats for everyone on their team, for LeBron, for IT, everyone. Sometimes these high-level metrics, these quote-unquote advanced stats, they can lie.
In nearly as many minutes with Love on the bench, Cleveland is about 5 points better per 100 possessions. Now let's get it back to First Take.
No good. The Cavs lose Kevin Love for a reported 6 to 8 weeks. Will Kane still here with us. Will, I want to start with you. What are their chances right now, the Cavs, of winning the East?
Slim to none.
Let me say this. I've been stating for the majority of the season that I would give Boston about a 35% chance of winning the East just because I need to see Cleveland lose. I'm going to stick to that because I've stated it from the start of the season. And I still need to see a team beat LeBron 4 times in 7 games. But that percentage is getting slimmer and slimmer because it's very obvious that the problem with the Cleveland Cavaliers is not even defense, it's that they can't stand each other. And LeBron is basically he seems to be someone who is resigned to playing out the season. I don't see him as being someone who really believes that they have a chance to win anything this season. And I really don't think he cares. Because I feel like he views his tenure in Cleveland the second time around as, I got my job done. I was able to fulfill my promise and bring a championship to this city. And now I'm ready to move on to LA, San Antonio, or Houston. But most likely it seems to be Los Angeles. But we'll see what happens.
I mean, really, really small. And that was the way it was before Kevin Love went down, so this only exacerbates it. Look, at this point, the only argument for the Cavs winning the East, the only reason to continue to put faith in them, is if the 2 words LeBron James carry a magical meaning for you.
I agree. I give too much credit to LeBron for right now. I'm just going by his track record, by his resume, by his dossier in the sports world, in the NBA. I need to see a team beat him 4 times in 7 games. The playoffs are a totally different animal. I hope that Boston beats them. I would love to see Boston in the finals. I think that they'll put up a far greater fight against whoever comes out of the West, most likely Golden State. I think that Boston will put up a much better contest in the finals than a Cleveland would. But I still need to see it. I need to see somebody beat Cleveland 4 times out of 7. Because for the most part, the teams in the East are novices, per se, in regards to pressurized big game playoff situations.
That you can put all evidence aside, you can put all current predicament aside and go, you know what, in the end, I just think LeBron James is better than a team like the Boston Celtics by himself. That I think LeBron James is better now than the Toronto Raptors by himself. It's just not true. And by the way, Stephen A., I heard you last night. I heard you this morning. You're 100% right. You know what this should do, now that I think about it? Actually, this should help the Cavs' chances if I follow their reasoning. If I follow the Cavaliers' logic, Kevin Love is the source of all their problems.
I agree. This is why I state now. This is going to be a referendum on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Players like Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder, who have decided to declare a code red on Kevin Love. I mean, That situation with Jay Crowder where he stepped over Kevin Love and basically kicked him while he was on the ground, that was so disgusting. Like, who the fuck is Jay Crowder? This nigga looked like a stunt double from The Predator. And he's running around kicking Kevin Love, a future Hall of Famer, because Isaiah Thomas put a battery in his back. Get the hell out of here, man.
Kevin Love has been the real issue in Cleveland. So now no Kevin Love, they should improve. If I follow the Cavs' logic correctly, the scapegoat is gone. They should be improving as we go forward. Unfortunately, I don't believe any of that nonsense logic. They weren't going to win the East as it was, and they're not going to win it as it is. Both the Celtics and the Raptors, I think, have a much better chance at this point than the Cavaliers.
I need to see it. I need to see the Toronto Raptors beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. Because not only have the Cleveland Cavaliers owned Toronto in the last 2 postseasons, they've truly dominated them mentally. It hasn't even been just a case of performing better on the court. Mentally, Toronto has not shown that they have been equipped to face Cleveland in the playoffs. Especially last season. That was embarrassing.
Max?
Go ahead, Max.
Look, I hear what you're saying, but if you put evidence aside, then and you might think that, but if you actually examine the evidence carefully, Will, and I think I actually might persuade you here with this argument. I don't think I'm simply arguing for the sake of debate. The question with teams in sports is there the requisite talent on the team? Because if there's not, you can spin your wheels all you want, and even if they're greater than the sum of their parts, good luck. But if you have the requisite talent, and you are still imploding, then we know it's not just the play. The play potentially is there. It's the chemistry, it's the finger pointing, it could be injury that precipitates all that, and in fact, I think that's the case with the Cavs. Will, you were telling us last year Isaiah Thomas was better that year than Kyrie Irving. I'm not claiming you think Isaiah's a better player, and we all agree he was an MVP candidate. Isaiah was amazing. Now,
Isaiah Thomas last year had an outlier season. He had a great performance based around the synergy with the team, the fact that the coach for the Boston Celtics, Brad Stevens, pretty much divested control of the team to Isaiah Thomas, particularly due to the fact that great coaches in general are able to develop a psychological profile for all their players, particularly their stars. So you understand what makes them tick, and you understand what's going to galvanize them and bring out the best in them. Brad Stevens was able to read Isaiah Thomas and determine that this is a person that has a lot of insecurities, has issues with feeling like he's not good enough, and is yearning for attention. So therefore, if you make him the hub of your offense, particularly on a team that does not have other offensive contributors, nowhere near as talented as him, at least not last year, Jaylen Brown wasn't ready, then you could bring out the best in your team. And sometimes you can have those type of outlier seasons. But is Isaiah Thomas on the level of a Kyrie Irving? Nowhere near.
now, he was hurt with a hip injury. That's serious. And he's not all the way back yet. And he's not integrated into the team. And it's changed the dynamic. But is Isaiah Thomas capable of playing at that level, give or take? Sure, he's capable, like we just saw it. Kevin Love's a terrific player. We all agree. LeBron James still the best player in the world, and even if you want to think that Kevin Durant is right nipping at his heels, you gotta love Kevin Durant, so you still admit that LeBron James is a fantastic player. Those are 3 pretty big pieces. And then guys like Jamison Crowder, who have been solid 2-way rotation pieces, at least if not starters on many teams, that caliber. Tristan Thompson, it's guys like that. Kyle Korver, who can shoot the lights out. You have a lot of Dwayne Wade, who can still be useful off a bench. You have the talent. The problem is finger pointing, the lack of cohesion, chemistry, maybe leadership, factions on the team, those sorts of things. By the time...
No, sir. Not maybe leadership. The issue is leadership. But you notice the reason why he said maybe leadership is because then he would have to finger point at his boy LeBron. This is why I like to harp on the infatuation that the liberal sports media has with LeBron James and their reticence in calling him out for his shortcomings. This is why I tell you, brothers, LeBron James is not a good leader. He's just not. When he went down to Miami, it was because he understood that he needed to learn about leadership from Dwayne Wade. And I have no problem with LeBron going to Miami because he exercised his right as a free entity. A lot of cats who have low-level thinking processes or two-dimensional thinkers have an issue with LeBron James leaving. Why is that? Because Maybe in their life they don't have much mobility or many options. So misery loves company. But when evaluating LeBron James as an all-time great in comparison to a Michael Jordan, then of course that's going to have to come into effect. That's going to be a factor. That's going to be something that you have to consider in evaluating if this person is indeed on Michael Jordan's level. Because Jordan had the leadership capabilities because he was so focused and stable-minded, which LeBron James is not. Therefore, when we're talking about leadership, it's always going to be an issue with him if he's the prime mover on a team.
When Kevin Love comes back, Crowder, Thompson, these guys are going to get more minutes. Isaiah Thomas should be more fully recovered. Kevin Love will be rested, etc. And maybe most importantly, the Cavs know help ain't coming on the way. You're not trading Kevin Love or Isaiah. None of that's going to happen. You're going to have to look within yourselves, not look for help. You're going to have to figure it out. I think this could be legitimately a blessing in disguise.
Will Kane, you mentioned about LeBron James not being better than a team or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Literally speaking, of course, that's obvious because it's one person against five.
Right.
But figuratively speaking, based on what I saw in last year's postseason, LeBron James, before he ran into Golden State in the NBA Finals, do you remember how phenomenal he was? I mean, it got to a point where he was toying around, spinning into the lane, shooting up left-handed shots from 15 feet away, shooting shots with his eyes closed, just toying with the competition. I saw Toronto. I saw Boston. I saw teams that literally were demoralized, sitting back in awe of what they were watching this man do to them. The difference between Golden State and everybody else in the East is that Golden State is so phenomenal as a collection of talent. They're not fazed by that because they know that they're superior to any one man. Those other teams didn't know that. The only difference this year between this and last year are two things. The fact that Kyrie is on Boston now.
Not a small
And
thing
the fact
here.
that DeMar DeRozan and the fact that DeMar DeRozan has elevated his level of play in Toronto, and they seem confident that they could beat up on Cleveland outside of LeBron James.
I agree with Will Kane when he added a little corollary to Stephen A. Smith's statements. Kyrie Irving going to Boston is not a small thing, but I do need to see how Boston's style of play transitions over into a playoff style where you're going to be called differently by the refs. They are going to allow more physicality, and for a small team like Boston, that can hurt them if they're facing a team that's a little bit more burly than them, a team like a Washington or a team like a Cleveland. Even though Cleveland is a relatively small team that's slow and old, over the course of a 7-game series where they're getting 1 to 2 days off in between games, a chance to game plan for the opposing team, their size can wear down on a Boston. In regards to Toronto, I agree with Stephen A. DeMar DeRozan has made great strides, especially in stretching out his game to the three-point line. But what I saw from Toronto last season, in last season's playoffs against Cleveland, particularly with DeRozan, getting on the dais and talking about how could you beat LeBron James, like, that's a team that is owned. And I have to see it before I believe it.
But here's the thing. If LeBron James in any way replicates the level of dominance that he did last year, I still don't believe there's anything anybody in the East could do.
I agree.
Because Boston doesn't have Gordon Hayward to go with Kyrie, and DeMar DeRozan and those boys, I'm not sure they'll be able to do anything about it because they seem tailor-made for a LeBron James team.
Okay, let me respond to both of you quickly. First of all, Stephen A., I don't
Sure.
think you can just hand wave at the fact that Kyrie Irving was in Cleveland last year and Boston this year. I don't think that you can look at last year's playoffs and go, that was LeBron James all by himself. He was amazing. You're correct. But he had Kyrie, and Max, you're right. I have talked up IT. I've talked up IT in comparison to Kyrie. But we have to at least acknowledge that Kyrie and LeBron had years of chemistry and experience with each other.
Yes, and we also have to acknowledge that it's clearly quite factual and obvious that Isaiah Thomas is not on the level of a Kyrie Irving. And many of the members of the liberal sports media who are card-carrying members of the LeBron James fan club were touting Isaiah Thomas because they were hoping to prove to Kyrie that he was not essential to LeBron James' success. and they've been proven wrong. And over the course of this season, they've all been forced to eat their share of humble pie. And it's damaging to them to watch what's happening to LeBron as he continues to put up the same numbers, but his team is nowhere near as successful. Why is that? Because it's obvious that Kyrie was far more essential to the synergy of the team, the success of the team, than they were willing to give him credit for.
Something the Cavaliers are going to try to put together here in a few months. That brings me to you, Max. It's not simply, by the way, I did have an open mind. I swear to you. I had an open mind on your persuasion. Here's the thing. I don't think sports is simply a level of accumulation of talent. If that were the case, Lob City might have a championship today and not be completely in tatters.
Well, I think that Max's point when he stated Cleveland's talent and the name recognition on their roster is that there's hope that they can pull it together in the playoffs. That's basically what he's trying to imply.
Run TMC might have had a championship. 7 seconds or less. The dream team in Philadelphia. Remember that Michael Vick and Vince Young said was a dream team with Nnamdi Asomugha and everybody else that never went anywhere? There's something more than accumulating talent. Coming together, chemistry, how do your styles melt? And
that's my argument.
But listen, right now you mentioned evidence. Right now the evidence in Cleveland is complete burning house.
But Will, we are on the same page about that. Will, we're on the same. My argument is this could be a blessing in disguise because part of the problem is LeBron seems to think the easy answer is looking outside the organization. Hey, maybe trade Kevin Love. Maybe do this. Maybe we'll get that guy. Maybe.
I don't think that LeBron looks at that as the easy answer. I think that he views that as the only answer.
This injury, get that guy. Maybe I'll go somewhere. And now with this injury, you ain't trading Kevin Love. You are riding with who got you like this.
Well, I think that it's going to be a blessing in disguise, but it's going to be a blessing in disguise for Kevin Love, not for LeBron James. LeBron James has shown that he does not like to be forced to deal with what he has. When things are not going well enough for him, he has shown that he's going to pretty much tap out and do what's best for him. And once again, please, let's be very clear between the distinction of a person's right to mobility as opposed to the reasons why they choose to be mobile. Many times I have a lot of, quite frankly, low-level thinking cats who are so emotional about sports. They want to talk about LeBron James and how he should not have left Cleveland or left this place or that place because other people, quote unquote, stuck it out. It does not behoove a LeBron James or any other athlete who is just a corporate asset to feel like he should try to overcome his own yearning to find a better situation for himself so that he can perpetuate this falsehood that an athlete should be loyal to an organization or to a quote-unquote fan base, especially not based on a false pretense that players in the past were more loyal. That's nonsense. Many players back in the 70s and 80s wanted to be traded, but they could not even conceive of the opportunity to sign with a team of their own choosing. Michael Jordan at certain points considered demanding a trade from the Chicago Bulls when they were struggling. Wilt Chamberlain, of course, is renowned for demanding trades. Hakeem Olajuwon, at one point, was so frustrated that he wanted to leave the Houston Rockets. Those things happened, but they did not have the recourse that players have now. They didn't have the freedom that they have now. But back to LeBron James, LeBron has shown that he knows when a situation is not right for him. Now we can say that he's ducked out, he's dipped out, but that is his choice. As long as he's loyal to his family, that's all that matters in the grand scheme of things. He doesn't owe a team or organization any loyalty or fidelity. They certainly don't show any loyalty to the players. When they believe that they can acquire a better player for their team, they're going to move that player that they currently have. Bottom line.
This is your crew. This is what you're gonna have to deal with. So from that point of view, they know now these guys are gonna have to try to figure it out. That means that maybe there's a better chance for chemistry because they'll actually have to try.
Well, I don't think that there's going to be a better chance for chemistry. I think that they have too many live wires, too many cherry bombs in their locker room. One of them being Isaiah Thomas, who's a malcontent. He's one of these guys who, if things are not centered around him, he's not going to know how to handle it. I told you guys that was what the situation was going to be even before the season started. I told you guys in Boston that he was the alpha and that he would not take kindly to his situation, to his station on Cleveland being reduced. He did not want to go back to being a role player. I even made the comparison of a female who was used to being a side chick, and now suddenly she's the main chick with a guy that she loves, and now she's been sent over to another guy for whatever reason. The previous relationship didn't work, and now she's rendered back to being a side chick. She can't go back to that anymore, not in her mind. That's Isaiah Thomas. So he's going to continue to cause a lot of upheaval in that locker room, and it's not going to bode well for LeBron James' chances. And as we all know, LeBron is not good with rallying the troops. He's good with, okay, this is my squad. We'll play well together. We're good enough. That's why I call LeBron James a Plan A athlete. That's it. There is no Plan B with LeBron. It's the LeBron system, and either it works or it doesn't. When it doesn't work, it's time for him to go.
Let Stephen A. get the last word, then we gotta go, guys.
The only thing I want to say to get back to Will, of course, again, you take all the talent into consideration. You take the greatness of Kyrie. But I had to cover the conference semifinals against Toronto. I had to cover the conference finals against Boston. And I am telling you, watching LeBron flow the way that he flowed, you can go against talent and know that somebody is great, like Kyrie and others, and understand the challenge. But what LeBron was doing, toying with them to such a degree.
I agree. In last year's playoffs in the Eastern Conference, LeBron was playing on a Jordan-esque level. He simply was. The way he was dominating not just the offense, but the overall flow of the game, he was playing on a Jordan-esque level until he got to the finals.
Those cats were demoralized. They looked absolutely hopeless until he ran into the finals. That cannot happen again, and they overcome that. They can't let LeBron do that. If he does that, Cleveland is still going to the finals.
Okay. The Cat.
I agree with Stephen A. And overall, we're definitely going to see how the Cavaliers play without Kevin Love. I think that it's great for both parties involved, particularly Kevin Love, because now he gets a chance to sit back and do what I think he's been trying to do, which is, in the words of Kyle Lowry, decompress. I think that Kevin Love is done with Cleveland. I think that a lot of guys are done with that situation. They had their time, they had their ups, and now they're on their way down. And I made this statement when they first came back and beat Golden State back in 2016. It almost seemed like they made a deal with Satan. And it was almost like, you know what? If you let us win this series, you can do whatever you want to us after that. And you could tell, after they beat Golden State in 2016, the way that they were running around, especially LeBron, doing all these radio interviews and TV interviews and talking about how he's as good as Jordan and he's chasing that ghost, and Jordan had a lot of help winning his championships. They were trying to stretch out the euphoria of winning that finals, almost like somebody who, like a Cinderella story in boxing, some fighter who had no chance and he got a miracle knockout. And he's just trying to enjoy having the championship belt while he has it, because he knows that he has no business with it, like a Buster Douglas. That's how Cleveland came off to me. So it really does not surprise me how precipitous their fall has been, because they never deserved to win the championship in the first place. But anyway, peace.